I used to sit here. This sofa was purchased around April, when just before she goes to dental surgery. And I remember that because it was purchased along with this chair here, which she sat on as soon as she returned from dental surgery and never let go. I didn't even manage to untag the steps. We bought this for her so that she can climb up our bed. She used to snuggle with us in bed, and since we moved here, I think I mentioned our bed is higher. We're no longer sleeping on a mattress on the floor. But she never really learned how to use this until I positioned it this way. She avoided it leading to the bed upstairs, and so I placed it here when I realized she likes this chair along with this thing here, which used to sit over there to help her go up this sofa. And for whatever reason, she only liked this sofa when it's not covered with this blanket, even though this blanket is nice and soft. Maybe it was remnants of smell of humans and the previous owner's dog. I honestly don't know. And I swapped this around. So only after I made this arrangement, which, another last lesson she taught me is that just a mere reorientation of the same item could have clicked something in her. And then she started going up this into this chair that became her favorite, and then up here to tap me for food, and then down here, and then she goes into her cave, which I have yet have the heart to dismantle. But it has been 2 weeks, and it is beginning to, it's more than 2 weeks with regards to this cloth actually, and it is beginning to need washing or cleaning. It's getting unhygienic really at some point, but I keep thinking the last traces of her, I'll wash it away. That's my biggest struggle right now, because things are getting to a point where I need to wash them. Anyway, so that's her cave there. What I want to show you is there is a video which I think I've posted by the time I filmed this. Whether by the time you see this, that video will remain up, I don't know, but she used to sleep there, and I used to sit here next to her. And we used to just hang out, and this was the case in the old house where we were still sleeping on the floor. I would spend days during lockdown. I had no issue during lockdown, just drenched in the afternoon sun, lying in bed with her lying next to me or by my feet. There are photos of that as well, which I'll post in due course, videos. And it was we spent the first couple of years of our lives together that way. And I may have mentioned this, I don't know. This is actually an incense holder, a Japanese incense holder that I bought from a Japanese shop when I was out of town in a small wine country. And I suddenly had this brilliant idea while waiting for our urn to have her here. And then, if not for the information that distinguished her from all the cats' stories of her life, which consists of dates and places, where she was born, when she was surrendered, to whom she was surrendered, cat protections, when we adopted her, when she lives in one suburb and moved to another suburb, and the day she died and the time. If not for those, this is a perfect place for her. In the back of my mind, I keep thinking, if I passed away tomorrow, nobody would know what this is. And I have this horrific idea of her being accidentally disposed of with nobody knowing. If both my husband and I passed away who knows? Like, in the worst case scenario, I want her remains to be identifiable, and like this is identifiable only to us. But I want to brought the topic of grieving. When I saw this, it reminds me of her, so that's why I bought it. It was not cheap, and I didn't buy it the first time I was there, and I kept thinking about it. And once I returned home, I actually ordered it and pay extra to have it posted to me. because I just felt so I couldn't shake. You know, I don't have incense. I don't lit incense regularly, so I couldn't justify buying it. There are a lot of statues of chubby black cats, so why this one, you know? Like, but I just felt like when I saw this, this shape reminds me so much of her. And years later, here we are. But every time I turn around, and I slept here for the longest time when she was sick, because to keep an eye on her, because she wasn't able to go upstairs, so she would sleep down here. And so she goes up the stairs and sit there. That's just something I would take to the cat shelter to donate as well. And this made me cry because it's like a glimpse of her still there. And I don't know if that is part of the grieving process, whether that is helpful to the grieving process, looking at her like this, or whether it's actually holding you back from moving on from the grief, you know? And so without this image of a cat, black cat like this, it's sometimes easier to forget that she's not around, and that makes me sad. Because sometimes, like non-verbal creatures, they have to fight for our attention, and if we have competing stresses that demand our attention, often they fall off, like with children. You know, accidents happen with children because we drop our guard just a little bit and they're off our radar. And that's not because they're not important to us, but because by virtue of the power of being able to assert themselves using the same language, they always fall off the radar when competing demands for our attention aggressively knock on our door, you know, knock on our cognitive doors. And having this sit like this make me feel like she's still around. And is that a healthy thing? A vivid reminder of them every day, is that a healthy thing? There is a belief in my culture that you're not allowed to put the ashes at home, that you have to intern them somewhere. And with burial ground, they're not always there. They're always somewhere else. And so that you could detach yourself spatially from the grief or from the reminder of the loss. And in my culture also, in my ancestral culture, I should say, traditional, because I don't think we do it anymore, there's 3 years mourning period where people are not only allowed to grieve, but in a strange, unhealthy way, you are forced to be in mourning period. I think that's also quite common in Victorian age, in English Victorian age in the early 1800s. I'm not sure, or late 1800s rather, where you have to wear black and you have to, you know, Queen Victoria was mourning Prince Albert for the longest time. And anyway, my point is this healthy? Where is the balance between keeping your memory of her alive and being able to move on and use her memory, honoring her memory in a more productive way, perhaps for other cats, other creatures, not just cats? I'm more familiar with dogs. Well, I say so, not having lived with dogs for, I don't know, 40 years now, so maybe I don't know much about cats. But it's not just cats. It's true for my dad, memory of my father, which I have the benefit of separating from because he passed away overseas, and then he was cremated and interned in the back of a church overseas. And we have photos and our memory of him, and keeping his story as a leader of national squash in Indonesia alive. That's how we honor them, not their memory ultimately. Do you remember The Death Becomes Her, the movie? Do you remember how everybody remembers Bruce Willis's character because of the things that he's done, even though he's physically no longer with the world? But the two ladies who's physically still with the world, no one remembered them because they haven't done anything for others. So yeah, I mean it's been 2 weeks. I'm not quite out of it yet, but this made me think the fact that I couldn't stop crying every time I look at this. I'm thinking, is this helpful, or does this have the detrimental effect? And I'm planning a tattoo of her on my forearm, and so the same question, the same question flew through my mind. Her actual urn, it's a wooden box, is still in process of designing. I'm very fussy about what I want, and it's not their standard model, so it's going to take a bit longer. It's been a week, and I suspect we need another week to 2 before that box will be ready. And then I'll go through in a different video what we were going to put in that box with her. Yeah.